This is the enchanted and spooky tale of a 30-year-old woman finally having her high school emo girl phase on Hot Topics dime.
Hello and welcome to Hot Topics with Vera Drew, the only show with the express purpose of getting me, your host, Vera Drew, sponsored by Hot Topic. I just want to thank everybody who tuned in to the first episode. I'm really just hoping we can keep putting pressure on Hot Topic to take the plunge and sponsor me. It will only benefit their brand, and I mean, they haven't gotten this much free publicity since Warped Tour 2004.
I'm humbled by the trust of my fellow citizens.
What is the Facebook exactly?
Band that came out from one of our, development stages this year that I really think is going to be big, My Chemical Romance.
And boy, what a Warped Tour it was. I'm talking My Chemical Romance, Taking Back Sunday, freaking Fallout Boy. It's like I died and went to emo heaven. Speaking of emo heaven, Hot Topics. Today's hot topic is emo, an introduction. You're probably asking yourself, what is emo? Well, that's like asking what Christianity is. In fact, emo's a lot like Christianity. There are many different types, people in the Midwest take it very seriously, and it's gay as fuck. People don't really know where the name came from, but you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to figure out that it probably just came from shortening emotion. Most emo lyrics usually focus on emotions and male insecurity and what it's like to have a shitty dad. It remained underground throughout most of the 90s and then made its big grand entrance into the mainstream in the early 2000s, and this is the era of emo I remember. I would sit around my family computer with my best friend growing up, and we'd illegally download All American Rejects records on Kazaa. Later, I would fry that family computer from looking at hardcore pornography on it. I may be a girl now, but I did have to go through boy puberty, and testosterone's a monster. As I alluded to in the last episode, I never got to have my high school emo girl phase. I never even really got to have my high school emo boy phase, and I really just should have leaned into the aesthetic more because it would have been a safe space for me to explore gender expression. A lot of emo boys at my school would wear girl pants and guy liner. I probably still would have been called a faggot all the time, but at least I would have been called a faggot for liking Panic at the Disco and not for how much I like cocks in my mouth and in my butt. Anyway, Hot Topic sells a lot of emo shirts and you should buy them. Oh, speaking of cocks in my mouth and in my butt, I have a crush on every skater boy I meet, ever since I was a kid. My first crush of all time was Billy Joe Armstrong, the frontman for Green Day. My other crush was Bruce Springsteen, but that's just because I grew up in the Midwest and spent most of my childhood slamming cheddarwurst at my dad's barbecues while Born to Run played out of a water-damaged boombox. But emo boys were always number one with a bullet. I mean, are you that surprised? You're watching a show called Hot Topics. Is it that shocking to find out that my biggest fantasy is to roll around in the grass next to a mausoleum with a hot skater boy? You put a boy in a Blink-182 shirt, hachi machi. I want to be the freak sheet in those jeans. Oh.
I have another product that I want to pitch to Hot Topic this week, but it requires some backstory. Every 28 years or so, Saturn enters the astrological position it was in when you were born. It's called a Saturn return, and it usually brings with it a whole lot of wake-up calls and chaos. And no bullshit, I can't get into the whole story now, but on my 28th year on this planet, my world exploded. I knew full well I was trans, but was hopelessly stuck in the closet and in the middle of an emotionally and sexually abusive relationship. A man I loved and almost married, the first person that I initially felt safe enough to come out as trans to, had become an echo of all the pain and trauma that I went through as a kid. To top it all off, around the same time, my grandfather was struck with lung cancer and dementia. My grandpa and I were very close. Our sense of humor was exactly the same, pitch black, and we both were the biggest nerds in the Midwest, playing historical RTS computer games, arguing about politics, and obsessing over the occult. See, my grandfather was a 33rd degree master Freemason, and when I was a teenager, we would spend endless afternoons together talking about holy bloodlines and secret societies. At the time, I wasn't pagan, but I already had a deep interest in all that was dark and weird, and he never did anything but encourage it. So when he was dying, it was like watching a part of me die.
We'll wish this never ends.
I'm grateful that I got to spend one last week with him, the entirety of which we played Empire Earth. I sat at the keyboard while he acted as general, bossing me around. At a time where his sense of reality was very thin and confusing, I knew it meant a lot to him that I was there. but his death and my eventual breakup had taken what little identity and sense of self I had and shattered it beyond recognition. I became reclusive, only leaving my house to go to work or get cigarettes. Days became endless streams of utterly black-pilled Illuminati conspiracy documentaries. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it made me feel close to my grandpa. It made me feel the warmth I felt those afternoons. The darkness was like a weighted blanket. I yearned for more, though.
Stop this pizza. Don't waste your time on me. You're already the voice inside my head.
It wasn't until a good friend got me a tarot deck that I realized I could use my obsession with darkness in a productive way. I didn't have to listen to nasally white guys drone on about pedophilic reptilian overlords who maintain power and control with ritual magic. I could make my own ritual magic. One particularly anxious morning, I made a commitment to myself that going forward, I would pull a card out of my tarot deck every day. I would journal about the wisdom the card held and how I could use it during the day. For instance, if I pulled a 4 of Pentacles, I'd focus on gratitude. I've done this every day since. Tarot led to crystals, crystals led to astrology, and once I began to see the cycles of my behavior as a reflection of the earth and stars, light began to creep back in my life. I finally saw a future for myself, one where I could be the real me. I began taking hormones and medically transitioning in June 19th of that year, and every day since I wear my grandfather's Masonic ring as a reminder to be authentic. Who knows what happens when we die, but all I can do is hope that somehow, somewhere, he knows that the best gift he ever gave me was the courage to finally be myself. And now, I'm combining my love of tarot and my complete fetishization of sexy skater boys and hot pop punk princesses. Introducing Emo Tarot by Vera Drew, a Smith Rider-Waite tarot deck featuring illustrations of the all-time sexiest men and women from the pop punk and emo genre, including writer of I Wanna Fuck a Dog in the Ass and hero of the UFO disclosure movement, Tom DeLonge, as the magician, Laura Jane Grace as the high priestess, and of course, Pete Wentz as the sun. Mostly because that card usually features a naked baby, and Pete's like 5'6", so he's basically the size of a baby, and nudity-wise, of course I chose Pete because he had a dick pic come out a few years ago, which was fucked up and a total invasion of his privacy, but OMG, Pete has the most beautiful penis I've ever seen come out of the music industry. Sorry, Lenny, but you just can't beat Pete. I'd give my left tit to have a romantic mausoleum picnic with him, but for now, I'll settle with the company of friends. Beautiful day, isn't it, Dolores?
Is this more than you bargained for yet? Oh, don't mind me, I'm watching YouTube from the closet. Wishing to be the freak sheet in your jeans. Going downtown in an earlier round. Sugar word.
Oh, I've been saying downtown. I've been listening to this song for like however many years since it's come out, and apparently I just don't know the lyrics. I was going to record another take of this, but my throat kind of hurts, and I'm kind of worried that I have corona. I hope you all are staying safe. There's going to be another episode next month, come hell or high water.